Right, back with you on the news feed this afternoon. Thanks for staying on. Now, on the 30th of October, Thembinkosi Ntuli, a registered security officer and bodyguard, was shot and killed in Marlboro during the assassination of ARMSTA chairperson Victor Moekeletsi. This incident was widely reported in the news, but the identity and the story of the bodyguard who died alongside him was never told. Thembinkosi leaves behind a 6-year-old daughter and a partner who lived with as a wife, both of whom depended on him. Following his death, the family approached his employer, Adams Close Security and Protection Services, for the statutory COIDA and PSIRA reports that must be filed when a security officer dies on duty. Since the incident, the family of the late Ntuli claim the employer has refused to submit required COIDA and PSIRA reports and has shown no willingness to assist the family with the legal process that directly affects their young daughter's future. For more on this, I'm joined now by Ntuli's widow, Dineo Lichaba, and his brother, Lindokuhle Ntuli. Good to have you both, and under such circumstances, but we thank you for coming out and sharing your story. Dineo, let me begin with you first. How important are these reports, the COIDA and the PSIRA reports, for your closure, but for your grieving process as well?
Can I explain with my language?
Yeah, no, go ahead, absolutely.
Okay. On October, ka di 3rd, Ntuli o tswile hoseng a ya mosebetsing. A le full uniform. Kabo ma to so ke o kokota batho ko ntlong nna ke dula ha ke sebetse ke dula ko ntlong ke o kokota batho ka bo ma 2 o'clock ko ma 2 ba re ke fonele Ntuli bo buti ba ithu ba re ke fonele Ntuli ke re Ntuli ha arabe phone ba re ba mo fonela ha arabe phone ke re okay. I don't know why. Ke tshogole nna ke tsebe why sa arabe phone. Ba tsamaye. After 30 minutes again, ho kokote ba bang ba ithu. Ba re ba qela di phone number tsa ya nga brother. Ke re why le di isa kae?
Go ba tseba batho ba ba kokota.
Ke ba tseba. Ke ba mo around mo re phelang. Hai ke be worried. Kale ke be worried ke re why? I don't know nothing go etsahalang. Ke le mo isa kae? O ka Ntuli ba re ai o shapo ga batla di phone number tsa butwa ai yanga brother. Hai ba tsamaye botse. Ke be re dutse ke bona ho kena batho ka bo ma past 6 ho kena batho. Chomisa hai futhi ba i5 ba botsa o ka Ntuli. I'm confused still ntse ke sa tsebe ho etsahalang ka yena. Until phone a chomi hai phone e re o ka Ntuli.
Ha
ke so tsebe next
mo founela, you have no
information. Ke mfonetse phone ya ba ha isala e a ringa ha e arabe.
Ha e arabe.
Ke qala ke be worried. Ai. Di chomitse di kena ka ma past 6 kontlong. Ke qala ke ba worried since ha fihli. Vele ha fihli kana go ba re ke nako ya o shaise ke tsebang sometimes wa fihla ina kwa tsa ha dia fapana di different. Kabo ma 9 past 9 ho kene colleague. I feel like your mo ke company ho etsetse kotsi ka 9 o'clock morning.
Sure.
Ke hona rongwe ka bo 9.
Siu.
Ho rato tla re jetsa ga le family. Ho re Ntuli ha sale.
Sure.
So I wonder why. I'm confused.
Mpemba, you are as a family trying to get this report. How important are these reports for yourself as a family, I suppose, for closure and clarity, but also in terms of the processes that you need to undertake?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think they go to the center of what the legislature had intended when they designed COIDA, and in particular, the compensation requirement and the duty of the company to report when incidences like this take place. it's because we do not want the family of the destitute, and in particular, their children and their wife, to be left in destitute. So this is what was envisioned by the legislature, and this is why these particular reports and confirmations by the employer that we have complied with our regulatory obligations to report the death in terms of COIDA, to report the death to PSIRA, which is the Security Industry Regulatory Authority. We've done our due diligences, and this is the process that you can take forward as a family to continue to ensure that Naledi, his 6-year-old daughter, who he left behind, can continue living a normal life. While, of course, it would be abnormal as a result of the death and not having a father in place, but having basic access to stuff like education, to fundamental human rights insofar as her welfare is concerned. This is what the legislature had intended. Unfortunately, when the company refuses to comply with that statutory obligation, it's not merely a compliance issue. It is the net effect of what that failure ultimately does. Possibly refusing a young girl an opportunity to study, a stable future, refusing her mother the peace and stability to raise her daughter in a comfortable and safe environment.
For all we know, it's a criminal act, this, right? That would have risen out of a situation that would have been happening in industries where the individual would have been involved. Why would, therefore, the company not want to fulfill that statutory requirement?
Well, it seems, and I put it no higher than it seems, to us as the family, that perhaps there might be possible issues of compliance. And I put it like this particularly because when we had made the complaint with the Department of Labor, they had signaled that they have dealt with rogue elements like these within the security industry that refuse to comply, particularly because there might be other issues of compliance that might be picked up when that is the case. It seems to us that might be the case here. We're not saying it is, but there would be no need for the company to avoid complying with its statutory obligations if its affairs are in order. And to the extent that it says that its affairs are in order, we call it then to account, to issue confirmations that it has complied in terms of its COIDA responsibility, to submit the relevant claims information to the family, and to report the death with the PSIRA. So to us, if your affairs are in order, please show your compliance. We would not be here if the company had demonstrated its willingness to work with the family. But regrettably, they have abundantly made it clear through an email exchange, we've got documentary evidence to that extent, where they had said, when we specifically asked them, please confirm your compliance with the relevant requirements in terms of COIDA. Have you reported the death in terms of PSIRA? And was our brother and our son and our husband, to the extent that it also involves his wife that he leaves behind, was he also within your employment scheme? What funds was he eligible to claim in incidences like this? But what is of particular importance is their response to COIDA and to PSIRA requirements. They specifically said to us, it is unfortunate to let you know that your brother was supposedly on approved leave when this incident happened, which is astonishing, particularly because we know, and as we've heard now from my sister-in-law, that my brother left that morning in full uniform. The uniform of the company, reported to the officers of the company. And when he reports to the officers of the company, he was issued with a service firearm.
Because that service firearm, otherwise he would not have had access
He would not have had access to precisely that. But not only that, He then got assigned a vehicle through which they used to escort the late Victor Moekeletsi. May his soul rest in peace. And he, allegedly, the company now tells us, was the director, the sole director of this very company.
Sure.
And yet, with all those circumstances, you've got a security guard in his uniform, in the company vehicle, with the company service firearm, escorting the director of the company. And yet later, when the family is asking you to please confirm your compliance with the relevant regulatory requirements, you then turn to the family and say, he was not on duty, which is astonishing.
Sure.
And that is an issue of accountability that we are calling on. We are calling on PSIRA to act with expedience insofar as its investigations of Adams Close Security and Protection Services is concerned. We are calling for assistance from the Department of Labor insofar as this issue is concerned. And primarily, the family is not interested in anything else. And I must make this abundantly clear, that we are not concerned with anything else but the ability of my brother's wife and daughter to be able to continue with life.
Have you reached out to these bodies? PSIRA, have you reached out to government? I tell you, we've done our bit. We've reached out to PSIRA. This is the response we got. Kindly note, the director won't be doing any interviews this year and does particularly not do interviews over the weekend.
Yeah, while they may have said to you that they do not do interviews, they had responded to us that they have received our complaint and will be acting on it with the urgency and the attention that it deserves. So we have not heard anything besides that confirmation from them insofar as having received our complaint.
Yeah. Well, Mama, I mean, I reported, I don't want to show their compliance. When I taba e lengwana.
Ha bohloko papa. Ke utlwa bohloko bo bona bo. Pelo ya ka e bohloko. The way company ba tlang ho etsa ka teng. Ke kopa nje e re thuse. Re thuse le ngwana re phele right.
Le phela jwang?
Ngwana e sekolong. Re khona ho phela tje ka batho ba bang. Ba re je everything. Ngwana o palama transport, o patala school fees. So no re dutse hona next.
Le thuswa ke mang?
No ngwana o ntse sa sekolong, hona motho a re thusa.
Ha e sekolong. Sure.
Since papa ya tsamaya ya sekolong go ya January.
Lona dintho tse ba hlahang ko ntlong le etsa jwang?
Like
dintho tse ba hlahang ko ntlong tsa bophelo, dintho tsa bophelo.
No re ntse re na le tsona. Re na le tsona. Re a thusa ke bo brother, bo my sister. Bona ba ntse ba re thusa.
And when o kopa, if uno o ka bua le company uno tla re o kopa eng? What is your request to them?
Ke kopa ba re support, at least to be something each and every month. Or rona re khona ho phela.
No, thank you for bringing this story and bringing this to our attention. I was asking you also, did the department that is responsible, Department of Labor, on this issue, did you raise it with them?
We did raise it. They too have acknowledged it, but I guess they are doing their own due diligence. We are still to hear from them in terms of the outcome of their investigations. But what I must also abundantly state here, while all the family wants is the compliance of this specific company, the sympathy. And I must also say, while I speak about the sympathy, that we also sympathize with the family of Victor Moekeletsi. We don't take that passing for granted. We sympathize with that. But fundamentally, there are certain things that just cannot be neglected.
True.
Such as the regulatory obligations. I must state that what COIDA requires, that act requires you to report death immediately when it is established. Failing having to report immediately within 7 days of you knowing that death has taken place with an employee dying on duty. The 7 days have come and gone. I don't know how many days we are in now since the 30th of October. There has not been any compliance. And while my sister-in-law is pleading with the company to assist, I must make it very clear on behalf of the family. It is not a favor that we're asking for from the company.
I wanted to ascertain, was there a scheme that he would have been affiliated with, where he was making contributions, should such an event happen, that would need to pay up?
Yeah, sure. I think insofar as the scheme is concerned, we have asked specifically the details from the company. They've denied that he's been part of any scheme. We do not have any confirmation, as well as the family, that he's been part of any scheme. We have sought to find clarity with Liberty, which we had understood was one of the possible schemes that he was covered under. And we are also waiting for feedback insofar as that particular request is concerned. But to just go back, one of the things I really wanted to highlight is that the family is not asking for any favors. It's not a favor when the company complies with its regulatory obligation. It is its statutory duty to do so. Right. So we are not pleading. We are not asking for hands out from the company insofar its duty is concerned. Is file a report, confirm that you had an employee that died on duty, report with PSIRA, and do what is necessary from your side as a company, particularly because this is someone that dedicated their lives, literally, to your service. The very least you could do to honor them and their dignity is to comply with your statutory obligations. And that is where the request starts and ends. Yeah. But also it is important to bring to light that while we are speaking of our brother and the injustice that we are currently facing as a family, that this may be a broader South African issue of companies failing to comply in such situations and in such instances where employees die on duty. Yeah. And to that end, the request is not only for PSIRA to look into our matter in particular, but to also come up with stringent ways to regulate the security industry, particularly because this, what we are experiencing as a family, no family should experience.
Indeed. I appreciate you both, and thank you for coming through and sharing your story. I have, as I told you, with me an email so far from PSIRA, but I believe there's another email from the company, which I will try and get to. But right now, this is the response we have from PSIRA. Kindly note that the director won't be doing any interviews this year and does not do interviews over the weekend. This follows, of course, our correspondence to them saying, please assist with arranging the conversation with your director on this show. But let me thank you both. We'll keep on following this story.